So today I am joined by two living legends and Nuffield Health ambassadors. I have Dame Kelly Holmes and I have Fara Williams MBE, because we're not going to be humble around here. We're going to give them all the accolades. How are you feeling today, ladies?
We're good. I'm good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good
Are we
after
sure?
getting smashed in a race by Kelly. Yeah, I feel good. Made me
yeah,
feel great.
How did this go? There was a race. Was there QP uppies as well?
There was.
And Kelly was
Plot twist, everyone beat each other.
Right. Yeah.
And the difference was Kelly was very good at actually keeping the ball up, and I was really, really poor at trying to run fast. But it's okay.
Oh, so you won.
We move.
So that feeds in nicely to what I would like to ask you first. What are your highs of both your careers? And I'm talking athletics career, football career, and post.
Ooh, you go first.
I mean,
I've got to think about the race.
Everyone's like, it's
Kelly
too
got
much.
too many to think about.
I'm so
You know what?
talented.
I always look back on my career and probably sustaining in a career at the top. And what I mean by being in the top league from the age of 14 all the way through to 37 when I retired, in order to do that through the changes of the women's game is probably something that I look back on and is most satisfied with. But in terms of trophies, I think when I won the league back-to-back with Liverpool, took a long time to do, the age of 30. So the waiting time to do that was very long. And then I guess winning the FA Cup at Wembley, I think in terms of dreams as a kid, and actually something that when I was on the estate kicking a ball in a cage with the boys, I was like, one day I'm going to be out at Wembley, but I did actually think I'll play for the Chelsea men's team one day and win the FA Cup, because that's all I seen. So visually, that's all I knew. So to actually win an FA Cup and walk the Wembley steps was kind of like, yeah, I've ticked the biggest box in terms of I dreamt that when I was a kid. I really every day would wake up and want to win the FA Cup. So I think doing that is.
What was that feeling when you walked the steps?
No, the steps was the exciting part. I think actually trying to play the game and the excitement of actually playing at Wembley, for an FA Cup. I think 60 minutes. I'm like, oh my god, I've got cramp in every part of my body, and like, what is going on? Like I play 90 minutes every week, but yeah, I think the adrenaline, the excitement, and everything kind of zapped everything out of me, and that is so hard to explain to people. When like that, I wasn't even nervous. I was excited, but that took everything out of me. And as I said, at 60 minutes, I was like, guys, I'm gonna need to come with this picture.
If we could just wrap it up, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's it for me. But let Kelly tell you hers, because they're far more excited than mine.
I love the casual. That's it. Just Wembley, nothing major, but
No, but you know what? It's weird because obviously, like for me, like I competed in the Olympics in 2012, the home Olympics, and like for a footballer. Like for me, like Olympians is people like Kelly, herself, like people that used to watch going on track and field. For me, it wasn't football. Like football for me was never Olympics. So when the girls and they talk about their career highlights and they're like, oh, the Olympics was the best part of my career, it baffles me. Because for me, athletics is track and field, not football. And so I never, look at the Olympics and be like, oh yeah, that's the best thing that happened. I was in awe of all the athletes that I was around because I was like, wow, and they are different to us. Their mindset is so different to team sports, completely different. And so I learned a lot from that tournament. But in terms of me thinking, oh, I'm an Olympian, absolutely not. And we have the legend Olympian right next to me, so she can touch on her career.
No, well, I mean, yeah, many highs, to be honest. I think, when you have a dream of something when you're very young, I think you're quite almost like very lucky or privileged to have that personality that you can foresee that dream and be willing to keep it going through all the resilience, kind of the fights, the barriers that get put in your way. And then, the successes that you have, you get close, there's an opportunity open, you might do it, you might not. And for me, I wanted to be Olympic champion since I was 14. I won 2 golds at 34. So again, I had a 12-year international career. It was full of highs and lows and full of moments I could have absolutely given up. But I think having that one, like, I can do this, that mindset, that attitude. I think to be a champion of anything, not just sport, but anything in life, you've got to believe it. You've got to have a dream and a vision. You've got to believe you can do it, and then you've got to put in the hard work. And one day it comes true. So that's one of my highs. But a lot of my other highs were actually off of the bat of battling an injury when everyone says you're not going to get anywhere and they're writing you off. And you then learn to adapt the way that you train, but still stay focused on what you want as an individual. I won many medals off the back of injuries, 7 years of injuries, 13 international medals in 12-year career. So that's the difference. Those highs were maybe getting a bronze at my second Olympic Games after only 6 weeks of running.
Mad.
Go, oh my God, I got,
6 weeks.
Yeah,
That's
what I mean? There's
insane.
lots of different things that give you a high depending on the journey to it.
You know, I was going
right?
to say that when you listen to that, it's like, you know, when people doubt you, the satisfaction that comes from, whether it be, as you mentioned there, you're coming off an injury where people thought you're never going to make it back and you pick up a bronze medal and no one even expected you to medal.
Yeah.
Like, I think those wins feel at times so much better than actually, you know, the gold and the ultimate that people expect you to win.
Yeah.
What gave you both that resilience? Because obviously we're talking about young ages that you two started. You're thinking Olympics 14. You started football for Chelsea at 14.
Yeah.
You were at the under 14s, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then we're both talking about medals in 30s. Mentally, where does that resilience come from that you're able to, because that is this time, isn't it? And just confidence in it. Where does that come from?
I don't know. I think upbringing played a huge part in, you know, some of the. I'm one of four, one parent family, so I think some of the struggles and fights and grit that my mum showed and instilled in us, her resilience through, you know, far more many lows than highs. I think I got it. I think from her in terms of her personality, I kind of saw the strength that she demonstrated every day to us as kids. And I think when you go into sport, you automatically know there's going to be lows. Probably more lows than there are highs, and it's just staying focused with it. And I think for me, what helped me is that I loved football. Like football was something that saved me in terms of like lots of different things growing up. It was the one thing where when I played football, nothing else was going on in my head. Outside of football, there was a lot of things I had to kind of talk myself out of. You know, something was talking on my shoulder, but when I had the ball in the cage or on the pitch, nothing else mattered. So I think that kind of focus of loving the football kept me on track to still want to do it even through those difficult moments, because I fell in love with football, and I'm sure Kelly fell in love with running. And when you love something, you want to take care, you give so much more for it, and I think that's what football did.
It's like a person, you want to feed into it, don't you?
Yeah, mine was probably a bit more like purpose. You know, it's the only thing I felt I was good at, running. To be honest, I wasn't good educationally at school, so PE was what brought me alive and gave me an identity. And actually the other thing being my PE teacher, who was then role modeling, you know, those behaviors. So if you can believe you're good at something, you'll get far. And because then that brought me alive, thinking, well, I'm good at running, you know what I mean? Suddenly you had a name, everyone wants to be in your team. Instead of being outside of the classroom, you are the person, you know what I mean? Like,
So
yes,
true,
Hello, you want to be in our team. Most of the time it's, yeah, get out, you know, oh, you're outside. So it gave you that sense of belonging almost, but also I was good at it, naturally good. And once you find that one thing that you're good at, that can literally give you the fire in the belly, you know. And I remember my PE teacher saying, you can be good, but you're going to have to believe you can be good, and you're going to have to work hard to be good. And I started running like at 12, and I went to my All England Schools Championships. Athletics has All England Schools Champs, and I won the 1500 metres 6 months after starting sort of running with my club and winning. You know, you got the feeling that I was good at something. Wow. So then, of course, a year later, I watched Olympic Games. You can only really believe things when you can see other people have achieved. You know, I saw a man, Sebastian Coe, but he ran for Great Britain and he was running his 1500 metres. So I'm in summer holidays like, I'm going to be Olympic champion. And that was the only thing I ever had in my head. So there's a couple of things. It's belonging, having a vision and passion, like loving it because you feel, well, I'm good at this, and it gives you a fire. And then having somebody else behind you that can, you know, just pushes you just that little bit more.
What was amazing, both your faces when you were talking about winning, literally like, lit up. So obviously that's going to be a massive driving force. I think if you're
it is, but you don't always win. That's the thing.
So what are the challenges that you've had, and how do you deal with those challenges in the face of everything? Especially when you've got this love for this thing, and you're like, wait, I want this to be easy. I just want to enjoy the ride all along. What are the challenges, and how did you deal with them?
I think Kel will tell you, but the most obvious challenge that everybody will see will be injuries that, you know, are part of the game. But I think challenges outside of that, you know, there's, you know, we're humans, you know, we have relationships, we have family problems, we have, you know, and for us, and I don't know if Kelly was the same, but as footballers, we had to work as well. So we, you know, when I started out, you're juggling work with training, and there's a lot going on. And it's that mental, you know, having somebody to talk to, a psychologist. And back then, it, you know, certainly when I was coming through, it wasn't cool to talk to psychologists. It wasn't cool to say that actually I'm struggling to juggle life. And I think they were far more difficult because, as I said, when you go into a sport, you prepare for highs and lows, you prepare for injuries. You know, there's a possibility that in doing sport, you can get injured. And certain injuries, there's a time scale to coming back from those injuries, and there is always a comeback. But I think the other stuff was, certainly with me, I got an illness really late in my career, a kidney condition, then put on medication that then completely changed my image altogether. What I'm saying, that the body image and how my body changed with that and coping with that whilst trying to play a sport and hiding it from other people. And then it's on, and all of these things, mentally, I was gone. I was gone. And for the first time in my career, I accepted that I needed to step away for a bit and actually get help. But accepting that was difficult, because I was somebody that, whether I had a broken leg, a tore hamstring, I would strap it up and I would try and play. That was my mentality. I grew up with, you're not defeated by anything. And it wasn't, as I said, till I was 36, I was defeated by this illness.
Especially when you have like other major adversities and you're like, this should be a minor in comparison to some of the other stuff that I faced. Mm-hmm. But yes, it is because you're out of control of it, aren't you?
Yeah, and that's what it was. Yeah. I think, injuries and managing times and having a plan for something. The condition I had, and I said medication. I mean, I never even took a paracetamol before I took this, because I was so ill at the time, or felt so ill. It was like, I'm taking this, and I was on it for like 40.
Play when you
I had to take time off at first because I was vulnerable, really ill and vulnerable. But we was in lockdown, so I was quite lucky. I didn't miss that much because we was in lockdown. And then I had to get clearance from anti-doping. Actually, it's prescribed drugs and whatever. But as I said, it wasn't, the medication made me a worse player. But my mentality was always, nothing's going to stop me. And trying to perform through that when you know yourself, your performance level aren't at the levels that you are used to giving. And then your manager still believing that they're better than somebody else's that is 100%. It just got to a point and I was just like, no, I need to take a step back. I'm not, mentally okay to keep performing. So that was the hardest challenge I had, I think, over anything. As I said, finals, you can get to finals. I lost 4 FA Cup finals on the bounce. So I always thought I'm never going to win an FA Cup. But I expected when I went into the sport that I'm going to win and I'm going to lose some. But I never prepared for the illness that I got really late on in my career. So I think that was the toughest for me. And then I had to retire because of it. And I wasn't actually ready to retire. I wanted to be the one that says, I'm done now. Right? Yeah. So I wasn't ready. I was offered, there was a contract on the table, a 2-year contract. So at 37, I was like, and then it was like, I'm actually not prepared for what next. Because the game transitioned so late in my career, I didn't even plan for what after football. So I always thought I was like, oh my God, now I've got to retire. Where am I going with my life after that? So I think everything got on top, and owning that you need help was difficult. And especially when you're somebody that's kind of had this mask for so many years all the time, and acted like, I'm big, I'm strong, I'm mentally tough. Yeah.
Would you say that's a shared experience that you had?
I mean, in a way, I mean, I had a lot of injuries. They weren't predicted. Some of them, that kind of came last minute towards the championship, where you just get a niggle and you just think, get it tested, whatever. Just had a really great session, going to Olympic Games, think that you're going to win gold because like your times and data sort of suggests it, and you get a little bruise and, go and get a test and they say you've got a stress fracture, you've got to go home. I'm like 26 years old. I was full-time in the military, because I remember I managed a 10-year military career with 5 years of my international athletics career, and I gave up my leave to go away and compete. So I had a strong mentality, as in, I'm here to do my job and I'm going to do it, and that's it. So when I had my first big injury, that really kind of came as a shock, because I was a really strong mentally and physically as a woman, and very high up in my career as an athlete. And I'd won 2 major medals at the World Champs the year before. I'd been Commonwealth Games champion, European silver medal, while I was in the services as well. Yeah. So when I went to my first Olympic Games and they told me I have a stress fracture, I've got to go home, I was like, well, what's the choice? Because the thing is, I hate that what if only. So I said, what's the choice? They said, well, if you run and you fall, you could break your leg completely. I had a stress fracture in my tibia, basically. Whoa. I went to heat, so I went to semi-final, got to the final, and it became emotional then, because I know I'm in pain, because I'm having that injection and I've not been able to train properly. Anyway, I come 4th at that Olympic Games. I got pipped on the line by 10th of a second running with a stress fracture. So that was a mind game.
Incredible.
2 things happened. One, I was so disappointed, like I didn't get a medal. Yeah. And then secondly, I came home thinking, I have to be quite good. Because if you can come 4th at an Olympic Games with that mindset, that ability to switch off and to still perform, then you've got more in you than you think. So at first, injuries were almost a strength to carry on. because you can easily go, oh, I've got an injury, give up the year, not bother, and then you're down on it, or go, what can I take that was positive? So that was sort of what I did throughout my whole career. But then, because I had a lot of injuries, you know, I had stress fractures, ruptured calves, torn Achilles, I then got glandular fever, I got everything while I was still an international athlete, still coming back winning medals, like through grit and determination. But then it got to me mentally. And then I basically had a breakdown when I was 33. And back in 2003, no one talked about mental health awareness. You know, kind of nothing. I didn't even know what a breakdown was. And at that time, I was getting ready for World Championships. So you've got the two brains. You've got one that is still striving to be the best in the world and go for an Olympic dream, what kept me going. And the other was, I'm going to give up. I want to give up on everything. But when you have other personal trauma going on that you can't necessarily take into the sport, you have both to battle with. You have the physical battle because you want to be at your best, but you don't correlate your emotional battle with what also can bring your physical self into detriment. You know what I mean? Because you've got to have, we know when we're talking about why fitness is great, because it's great for the body and the mind, right? But when you're in elite sport, it's all about the body. You go to a physio, it's all about the injury, it's all about this, get you back. And what about the emotions of it all, the highs and lows, not the sacrifices, but the fighting, the blood, sweat and tears, literally. So I lost it. But at the same time, at that one, I won a silver medal at the World Championships when I actually didn't want to be here in this earth. So if you've got two things, you then go, okay, so if I got a silver medal at World Champs and I was at depths of despair, I'm all right. And that's what I took into my attitude for the Olympic Games. And then it becomes, it's not just about you, it's a team around you. And every part of you, your nutrition, your sleep, your performance, you have to live it, eat it, and sleep it if you want to be the best. And I had to change my mindset into, I've got one last go for the Olympic Games. But there's a lot of battling as an elite athlete, whether it's the athletics, which seems to be individual, is when you're open to, you know, when you're losing, but also the team behind you that no one sees. They're two different sports, but at the end of the day, you are human as an individual. So you can get yourself to a point where you're the best. You can also put yourself down. You can fight through it when you've got support, and you can think you're fighting because you haven't. It's just carries on all the time, doesn't it? I mean, I was lucky. I retired when I was 35, a year after the Olympics, but I made the decision. I'd hate to have been forced to make the decision by, I have no chance. I've done a huge amount of things. You know, I'm a global speaker now. I go around the world trying to inspire and motivate. But the biggest strength I've got is to be very transparent about my continued mental health problems, because the biggest thing is, didn't stop me being an Olympic champion. And that's the tool and the strength we have as individuals. And even now in the life that I've had with a lot of other things, I use fitness as a way of combating the maybe negative side of what mental health can bring you, because that's a positive stream that we can all have. You know what I mean? I go out, even if I go for walks or get my steps or go to the gym or go for a run, I do that knowing that's going to make me feel good. It's not about getting gold medals anymore. So I'm at that stage of life where, how can I use what I've done throughout my whole life, physical training instructor in the army, you know, international athlete, and now, well, no one will call me normal, but you know what I mean, like living life day to day. How do I use all of those things as a tool now just to feel good, empowered, and keep moving? And I think that's the biggest life lessons I've had through the journey that I've had.
Incredible.
Because you both sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I'm saying it's incredible.
Yeah, because you're both talking about obviously mental health, and you've both touched on the fact that obviously sometimes when your mental health is not fantastic, it does affect your physical health. And when your physical health isn't fantastic, it also affects your mental health. So how did you cope with that in both of your, because you've literally both discussed it, how did you cope with that in your careers?
I mean, I think it's difficult. I think in terms of the mental and the physical, I think I always hated fitness. I mean, look, pushing your body to its absolute maximum every single day to be better. And then you're not only competing with yourself, you always felt, especially because I'm part of a team, you're always feeling like you're competing with that person that's next to you. And I had 23 of them around me. It's mentally difficult. It's difficult. You have to be mentally strong, and there'll be setbacks within that. There'll be opinions with that. And so mentally you have to be tough. And, you know, in the peak of your career, that becomes really easy. You don't think about anything. And I think for me, I had a lot of self-belief. Like I didn't rely on other people to give me that, reassurance that I was good at something. And that's probably my upbringing, in the cage with the boys. If I can stay in a cage and survive with boys, because that's what I had to do. My sister didn't survive it. She was in the house. She wasn't good enough to. Yeah. So I think that I got strength from that. I think, so when I was, mentally in a good place, physically it become really easy. But I think when, the opposite. So mentally, when I wasn't in a great place, the physical was 10 times harder. And physically, when I was in a bad place, that self-doubt and self-talk become even worse. So I always struggled with that. I think, a happy mind, everything else becomes really easy. And when that bit's just triggered a little bit, everything becomes difficult. So it was a balance of trying to balance out the two. And but it was really difficult. And I guess it's just that drive to succeed that kept those in check, but they were still there. So I don't think there was ever one without the other at any point. And that's, probably a year or two in a career, that continuous, where you had a really good period in your career. But other than that, they were both there throughout.
Do you think sometimes being a part of a team sometimes made it easier or harder? Because obviously this is where it's quite interesting speaking to both of you, because you're part of a team where you have other people that I guess you can lean on, but then at the same time you feel, as you just touched on there, you feel responsible for them as well. Because you're only as strong. I think I used to be a dancer, so when I was in a company, there's always that mentality of you're only as strong as your weakest link.
Yeah.
So do you think sometimes it was a positive being part of a team, or how did you deal with that?
It's difficult because, like when it comes to the football, so when it's like any football drill, tactical, technical, I love being a part of the team. I love being able to showcase that I'm the best. Like I used to think I was the best. Like you want me to do a challenge, give it me.
Say it with your chest,
I'm going to out-talk you. I'm going to get in your head, because I knew that like it's up here. Everything's played. Like if you're strong up here, you can literally achieve most things. Yeah. People go in sport and they think it's played with your feet. It's more than just your feet. And you'll know that in running, it's more than just your arms and legs going at the same time. It's up here. You can talk yourself out of something. So anything to do with football, I was absolutely neat. I was thinking, I don't mind any challenge you throw at me. I'm going to be able to compete. It was the other stuff, training in front of people, doing the physical training, doing the hard runs that like, now you're competing with people. Now they're seeing your vulnerability. Now they're seeing weakness. Whereas I felt in football, even if I had weaknesses, I was very good at being able to disguise those weaknesses. Now in the open, I'm in a new environment. Gym, like in terms of like strength conditioning, was introduced to the game, and it was different. I've never been in a gym before, and I never knew what a weight, was. How do I lift it? Am I doing the technique correctly? And when you're a perfectionist, you want to make sure that that's all right. And so I think that mentally so when you're doing the fitness and the physical in terms of your strength conditioning, that mentally was difficult for me, because now like I would rather go to a gym in a quiet, no one there. I've got I've got a little gym down the side of my, that's me. I don't want no one to see me. I don't want no one to see me like literally gritting my teeth and sweating. I don't want to be seen like that, because I want to be seen. I want the end product where like, that's where I was at. Yeah. So I was kind of like, no one needs to see what it takes to get there. I just wanted them to see the and so that bit was mentally, exactly. and that was my mentality. Like I would train by myself. I much prefer it. Like I get my best training when I'm on my own and no music. I have to drive and push myself. That would be me at my best. When I'm around people, I'm easily distracted. So I would try and distract you. I would let you distract me, and then I probably wouldn't get the very best out of me in terms of like my fitness or my strength conditioning. So I found that difficult. I love being around people. I'm the joke of the pack. That's how I like to be seen. And I was like that in school, and kind of in sport at times that could hinder me, I would say. So that's why I really like training on my own.
Now, as someone that technically, I guess, is a solo, I mean, you're always going to have your A team around you, but in terms of getting the gold medals, you had to rely on yourself. Sometimes you wish you had a team around you? How did that affect your mental health? And do you think it would have been easier or harder?
Well, I think since I started running, it was just me and my coach on the sideline with the whistle. And I felt that became my strength, because I wasn't part of a group. So there wasn't a group of us running all the time. I mean, my performance would have probably excelled higher because you've got other people who are pulling you along. But actually my strength was being able to solo hit the targets that my coach had done, to be in the zone when I needed to be in the zone. Because when I go into a race, I'm not having a joke with anybody. I'm in my lane and I'm not having a joke with you. So actually, sometimes I felt that athletes that had groups, they were distracted with their training. It's all laughy, then they go and do a rep, but laughy. And
that's where I was saying with me, I struggled with that, Kelly. That's where I really struggled, because when I'm around people, easily distracted. And then on my own, I got hit seconds. I've got to get him in, and I'd be more focused. So
and that's the thing. I think that's the difference. But on days when you're down, you do want people to bring you up. I mean, I did have my best sessions if I had a guy training with me, because they would be then set the target that I had to do, be ahead of the target. I'm just running behind them. I haven't got to think. I'm just running. So on certain sessions at certain times in the year, when I had to really hit the world-class times in training, I needed somebody else as a distraction for me thinking about the clock. But I didn't need people around me to help me get out and run, because if I wanted to be the world's best, I've got to do it on my own. It was nice to go out for a group of run if I go for a half an hour run, because my coach always said to me, the most benefit you're ever going to have in improving your running is to talk when you go for easy runs, because of course you're using the cardio system, you're not thinking about it. And then when you're there on your own, every part of that brain is supporting you. So when I went down to the athletics track, he went, I want you to go and run with that group of guys, and you're running for 30 minutes, and because you can talk, because I've heard you can, you talk the whole way around. And I came back with attitude, like, why do you get me to talk? He said, one day you'll realise. And it was true. So there's different things of being an individual athlete. You have to take accountability of yourself. You have to get yourself down there. You can't let your coach down. You have to hit the targets. You have bad days in training, and you get really annoyed with your coach and you and the wind and the environment and everything, but you're literally swearing on your own. You go away, you deal with it at home, and the next time you do a session, that session's got to be forgotten. And that's a mind game. So you have to be very strong as an individual athlete, because it's you. If you don't turn up, you don't show up, you don't do the work, you're never getting anywhere. So that was the difference. I didn't have somebody picking me up, and, not saying that what happened in team sports, but if you have an off day, I'm sure you can have a little bit of an off day because somebody else was on it.
You can get away with it. You can. It's like performance. You can get away with a dip in a performance. 2 players not playing up to level an 8 or a 9. Like, you need them. You need people at 8s consistently to be a good team. But you could have people at 4s, and because there's 11 of you on the pitch and 18 in terms of squad. You get away with it. We all have bad.
Exactly. Somebody else.
If Kelly doesn't turn up, if he's ready and the gun and it goes, and she's not like.
And somebody can get
you can't get blamed. That's you. You're responsible for that.
Me, you win or lose.
Yeah,
and that's all
brutal.
Down to people's opinions then, or whether you were good enough or not. But it's a fine line between winning and losing, isn't it?
The other thing I'm really interested in with you both, because that whole winning losing mentality. One is, what do you both do for your physical and mental health now? But also, what is your physical and mental health like now that you're retired? Because obviously, I guess there's a whole period where your whole being is that you are an athlete, football athlete. What that is who you are. That's how public perceives you. Now all of a sudden you're retired and you're doing like multiple things. Mentally, how do you deal with that? And then also, you haven't got this thing that you have to do physically every day that's keeping you fit. So then now what do you do for that? Now that you're retired. Fara's here like, wow. I was like,
no, it's not.
Why are you being so loud?
You know what, it's bad, because when I retired, like, as I said, running and if it was for football, perfect, but just running on my own, like, and when the 5Ks, because it was lockdown, about just as we come out, the 5Ks become a thing, you got to compete and get your time. Yeah. So I was still in that mindset of trying to train and behave like an athlete, although I was retired and I'd been in the game for, that was 23 years, whatever. It was a long time to be disciplined in something, and that kind of, it's instilled. That's it. That's who I am. And as you said, you start to think that without training, I can't be anything else. And so I'd wake up, and if I didn't get it in, mentally, I wouldn't be okay. I was like, you haven't done this today, and crazy hours, you're doing crazy things. And it's only recently that, I'm saying recently, maybe last 8 months, I'm like, I like to now do leisurely runs. I'm not competing with anybody. Like before, when I retired, I was still in that competing with myself, kind of like, you need to be better at this. Now, I hated long distance running, but now I prefer long distance running, leisure, just chilled, a nice chill, but I'm out there mentally, I feel good. I feel better when I come back from my run, and I don't care about anything. My time doesn't matter. If I want to improve it, I will. Like, I'll try to, but I'm not competing with my time. And like, even like now when I exercise and I do a walk, I go out for 2 hours and walk, and I still feel better. Whereas for me, I always used to think walking's not enough. Like there's no exercise in walking. Like, and so what's the point? But even like, I used to think, what's the point in walking for half an hour? I might as well just drive there or whatever. But now it's like, no, I'm gonna like, and of course my kidney condition, when I couldn't train, walking was the only thing I could do. So I kind of got into that kind of mindset of actually it's exercise. So I think at first, as I said, when I first retired physically, it was that I'm still an athlete mindset, and I was like obsessed, and so mentally that was quite tough on days that I thought, what am I training for? Because there was no end goal to that. So I'm trying to push myself for nothing other than the fact that I'm still seen as a footballer. But in my head, I'm not a footballer anymore. I've got a new life. I have to start something different. So I was trying to transition out of that, and that was really difficult. And now, yeah, I do a little bit of jogging here and there. So walking, I like food. But you know what? Mentally, I feel better for it. Like, don't get me wrong. If I don't do any form of exercise, whether that be a walk, even a 5K, a 30-minute 5K or whatever, if I don't do that every day, mentally, I don't feel good. But I try and get that done as soon as I wake up. Look, get your 5K if it's on a treadmill. If it's raining out, I've got a treadmill. So so long as I do it, whether it's treadmill or outside, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And then I think that that's actually helped my mental health. Minimum 5K run or walk or whatever, and I feel good. But yeah, now I feel better that I don't put the pressure on myself to do it. It just becomes, it's a habit now. It's part of my daily routine. So I think making something part of your daily routine has helped me mentally and physically. I'm getting both, but I'm doing it when I want to do it and at a pace that I'm comfortable with. And I actually enjoy it more now than I did before when I was trying to always better myself. I just do it because
there's something beautiful in that as well, because I think there's a piece that comes of it, isn't it?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
It's not necessarily healthy being an elite athlete, you know, because your lifestyle is not conducive to just always feeling okay with yourself, because you're all questioning your actions or whether you're training enough, or there's a lot of exterior noise around you. So it's not really healthy to push yourself to that nth degree, both physically and mentally, because a lot of people don't ever get the outcomes that they've strove for. So again, that's a big crush. So it is just a lifestyle. It's a career that we are fortunate then to be able to do, because we're good enough, and we're one of the people that have got it up here to drive. But when you retire, there's so many other aspects of life. Like when I retired, I had 6 months, like every takeout you can imagine. Like I had everything, because I was like, I don't even know if I've even eaten this before in my life. I literally let it go.
I love
She's
it.
like, what a time to be alive.
You know, I'm laughing because I never know about Uber Eats and Deliveroo until like 6 months ago, right? The summer, someone was like, no, I never used it.
When I was
still in that discipline. And honestly, my Uber Eats and like the bills now are just like, it's on top. It's crazy.
I'm telling you.
That's what I'm
I just
laughing.
literally
You did it straight away. I'm doing it now.
I just let myself go. And then I kind of thought, oh no, I need to get back into fitness, because I was missing just the adrenaline and the dopamine, the endorphins that you get through exercise. I was missing that. But I was also then questioning, am I missing competitiveness, and why I had the focus and the structure. I trained because my coach would write me a 7-day, twice or 3 times a day plan. I know I'm going to do it, because I'm not letting him down, not letting myself down. Even if I had to adapt the training, I would still train at the times. Then I didn't have anything to follow. So you're actually quite lost, because you know what it's like, somebody going into the gym, if they're not given advice, a good gym instructor, a PT, you just wander around. And I can do anything in a gym, but sometimes still wander around. It's like I've not got, a plan.
Program.
So as an elite person, you've got an advantage with being fitter and healthier, because you've got a plan to follow, and it's continuous. Normality isn't like that, right? We go to work, you can't get to the gym or whatever. And we've got a new world now where you've got the online, of course, which is not what we ever had. So people have more accessibility to training and things. But I think I've had an on-off relationship with my fitness. I mean, I'm more into it now and set my goals now, because as you get older, as much as I'm in denial of age and always have been, 39 still, if only. As you get older, I do think you have to take more accountability of your health. You do.
Especially as a woman.
As a woman, because you hear now in society a lot more, because now finally people listen around people talking about perimenopause at certain ages. I had no idea what that even meant. I just thought it's just for old people.
I still don't.
You know what I mean? And now you listen, right? Yeah. And actually we know through the scientists and that it could be late 30s, that you're getting it. But if you think about detrimental effects on your body, if you do not train that body, a muscle wastage. I mean, you're a PT. Osteoporosis. And then the correlation between the gut and the brain and the body and the brain. There's so many things that we could be preventable as a healthier nation if we just take accountability of ourselves and know that we have to move more, we have to exercise, and actually it's good for our brain and our body. So I've now got into that mentality. Now, I'm not going to lie, I am still competitive. So if I go to a park run on a Saturday and I'm looking and I'm thinking there's a couple of women in front of me and I could have you, I'm going to have them. So it's not like I've gone completely into just normality. However,
that is too funny.
It's always good to have a bit of drive, you know.
Should I tell you what I love about that? Those two women are probably thinking, cool, Kelly's there. I'm going to push my life.
They're probably trying to push it. Yeah.
No, it's the guys.
Out their backside.
I'm telling you, guys, stop this nonsense. I go to a park run. Someone sprints past me with the video and they go, oh, I'm beating Dame Kelly Holmes. I guarantee 200 metres, they're dead. They're dead at the end.
It's so funny.
You can't take the competitive edge out of a competitor. But no.
Oh, mine's taken out of me. Mine's gone.
So mine's just delivering Uber Eats. I'm having a time.
No, but honestly, no, the truth is that you do go through different cycles in your life depending on what you've got. You know, we have to work, we have a lifestyle, we have trauma in life, losing people. Life creates our highs and lows. And sometimes you have to be able to
like that. Say that again.
Life creates our highs and lows.
It's going to be a nice little
that is true.
And it is. And during those different highs and lows, it will test you as a human.
So true.
And at those moments in times will test your ability to realize that you are still here to live. And certain times you have to take control of those emotions to be able to keep that drive going. So when we have a real low in our life, everything can go to pot. Everything. I've lost people, you know, I've had a lot of mental health problems, and everything can go to pot. But that will absolutely have a detrimental effect to my physical being, without a doubt. So at those times, I have to realize that for me to keep moving, to keep the brain working while I'm even in the low state, is so going to benefit me and my longevity and my drive, my determination going forward, if I've just kept moving during those moments of real lows, because it's the correlation of realizing that everyone will struggle in life, but those that give up just will never get anywhere, yet you could be around for another 20, 30 years. And that's, as you get older, you get more closer to realizing the need to keep supporting yourself for your physical well-being, to help your mental well-being. And that does come in time. It comes through lived experiences, and it comes to the realization that, you know, I mean, we can be accountable for ourselves. Sometimes we have to get up and do something and not moan that we can't, because we can, and not blame somebody else for not supporting us, and not go and make the effort to go out for a walk or run. We have to take accountability of that.
And like Fara said, it doesn't need to be anything massive. It can be just, let's go just for a little walk. It's those tiny little steps that all of a sudden, well, they say many small drops make a mighty ocean.
This is true.
So it doesn't have to be something major. You're right. Just getting out, doing those little bits, just do the little tick boxes,
just
and
they'll
go to a big
well,
one.
We're a nation, right? With excuses. That's what we are. Like, and it's like, you're right. And as I said, and I guess it's people's perception of exercise and what that looks like. Because for me, I used to always think, like, unless you're exercising hard, you're not exercising at all. So that's all you knew, because it's drilled into you that you have to compete at your maximum, and you know, down day is just an off day, you've got to rest and whatever. There was never that actually walking for 2 hours, you know, 10-15k walk is exercise. Like, or even if I'm walking, as I said, you know, to the shop, whereas I used to just get in my car, that's like 5 minutes, half an hour walk. Like those things, those small, you know, steps that were taken, or movements, as Kelly said, that you're taking, you don't realize. I think people's perception of what exercise is it's so broad, isn't it? And do many people know that if they were to just walk, say 15 minutes to shop and back, 30 minutes of walking is better than doing nothing? They probably don't even realize that. So they probably think, I'll jump in the car 5 minutes there and back and it's done. Well, actually, you know, an extra 20 minutes out of your house would have been far more beneficial than that 10-minute car journey. But I just think it's what we see as exercise. And as I said, only that I got ill did I realize the impact that actually walking as part of my exercise was really beneficial to me at that time. I started to even compete with myself. You know, I was doing 10Ks, and my first 1K walk, honestly, it was about 14 and something minutes for 1K walk. I'm like, and I got it down to like 8 and a bit, and I'm like, I was buzzing. By the time I was doing it for like a long period of time, And obviously you get better at walking. You know, who thought you could improve walking fast? But you do. And then I started to compete with the walking because that's the only form of exercise I could do. And I still needed to be competitive if I wanted to come back and play football at that time.
Talking about that competitive nature, what was your biggest challenges as professional athletes and professional footballers?
Opposition for me. There's always somebody to watch out for, and you don't know what they're doing, the same as they don't know you. So having like that real kind of, you know, if you want to be the best in the world, you've got people to beat. You also got times to run. So you're your own competitor. Yeah. Because in your mindset, you know what it's going to take to win a medal at a championship, because you get to know your competitors, you know your sport, you know you. So that's a big kind of challenge. Keeping injury free was definitely one of my personal biggest challenges ever, because you get an injury, you adapt, and you think, well, I won't do that again. You get another one. So it's not about learning by mistakes, because, you know, if I get a calf injury on one calf and then Achilles tear on another and then a back injury, it's like, well, I haven't done the same thing to keep repeating, same injury. So it's getting through those mindset goals. And actually on the back, you know, in the awful weather days, the days when you think, oh, I really don't want to do this. It's a battle. It doesn't matter if you're an elite athlete. Sometimes you have off days. You just say, I really don't want to do this today, but you have to, you know. So that elite mindset it's a ambition, or, you know, it's a need to succeed. My whole drive in my life as an athlete was because people didn't believe I could do anything when I was younger, and I wanted to prove them and myself right and them wrong. And also I believed if running was the one thing I'm good at, why am I going to give up on it? Absolutely. So I should prove to myself that I can be as best as I can. And that's what I think anyone in any walk of life are good at something. You know what I mean? Everyone is better than somebody else at something, but they don't always believe or realize their talent, whatever that is. We were lucky that we had a talent and we had something to go for whatever our personal reasons were. And that, I think, is a strength of us too. It can be a strength for somebody else to realize that they've got, you know, part to play in the world where actually they're good, but don't give up on yourself.
Was there any specific challenges being a woman, in your...
But even challenges that Kelly probably didn't have as an individual athlete compared to what we do as a team? Because, look, when you're an individual, it's solely your responsibility to be the best you can be. When you're an individual within a team sport, you need and especially within football, there's only so much individually you can do to be better in certain areas. And you need the team to be, you know, tactically, you know, we need to be on the pitch. Technically, we need a ball. We need to be able to use other people. We need to use their movements or whatever it might be. There's so much you need to do on the pitch in order to improve on pitch stuff. We can go and run. So I could take accountability and responsibility for my pitch runs. I could go into the park by myself. I could go to the gym and do my weights. What became really difficult in the women's game was we were semi-professional, not even semi-professional, we're amateur. We weren't getting paid, nothing. It was, we turn up 2 days a week in the evening on on a Tuesday and Thursday evening from 8 till 10 p.m. at night. So in terms of the training times were really difficult so those are challenges in themselves. At the end of your day, a long working day, you chill some of us would chill for an hour or two before you're going back out. By the time you get home from that, you want to eat because you're hungry from what you've just lost in terms of performance. So we had all of that in the women's game, which, you know, was the biggest challenge. Resources, we didn't have it. We wasn't able to do enough to be better on the pitch. Yes, we could get fitter, and that become our thing. You know, in England, can we be the fittest team? But actually, the fittest team in the world, when it comes to performance in football, doesn't win you medals. You know, you need other things. And so I think the only thing that from those challenges that were there that I ended up doing was watching a lot of football and analysing and becoming a real geek of the game and understanding, you know, the tactical side of the game. That was how I could improve, say, the on-pitch stuff that I didn't get with my teammates. And that's probably why, and you know, if you speak to my coaches then, they'll always say I was a little bit ahead of the game because, you know, I made it a part of me to make sure that I really trained myself into understanding tactics. And if a team plays a certain way, how can we stop that? And I think, you know, I was probably, as I said, in terms of the game, my teammates, I wasn't scared then to be like, look, we need to change tactically within the game. You need to come in and whatever. And I would do that. I'd kind of be that coach in the pitch.
I'd be frustrated in a team sport.
It was difficult.
If I put 100% into something and I thought other people in my team weren't, I would hate that. And that would have been the worst.
And especially when you're amateur. We were amateur. We was it was up to us to take responsibility.
Yeah.
And look, if you had something else going on and you skipped a couple of days training, because you get a program, you got to a point where here's your program, you got the World Cup in 8 weeks, take that program and go and do it. Now you're trusting that your teammates are thinking and behaving in the same way as you. And it goes down to a trust thing. And some would do it and some wouldn't. And on the days that it got hard, there were people that would just skip it. But we got found out. Of course we did, because we didn't win. We wasn't able to compete. But it's really difficult to balance everything. And it was our challenges. The balance, our challenges we faced was balancing real life and what was, for us, if you wanted to be professional, because going to a World Cup is professional.
Yeah.
It's the elite. World Cups, when people talk about the World Cup, it's the ultimate, it's the elite. But for us as athletes that weren't being paid and we wasn't being supported with resources that we needed, it's difficult. It's a back burner. Some people is like, you know what, but this is my priority because this pays my bills. And so having that trust is really difficult in a team sport. So even without Kelly having, say, sponsorship, for example, training by yourself and being motivated just to make you better as an athlete, it would have been easier to do than if you was a footballer wanting to be better without a football and teammates to work with you. So the challenges were so different.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed a lot in sport now because, of course, a lot is professionionalised. But there's a lot of but not professional, and
true.
So there was no funding at all for most sports up until a level anyway. Yeah. So in athletics, funding didn't come in until lottery funding came back, early 2000s. It was sort of 99, but then it wasn't like you paid as an athlete. You don't get paid to do your thing. You only actually get money by being in a race that has a payment structure, or potentially a sponsor, but you've got to be one of the best in the world to get that. So most people were juggling careers and their sport. I mean, I was fortunate because I had a full-time job, so that was my pay in the army, but then I had to do a full-time job and try and be an elite athlete. So everyone's had those struggles, I think, as a sports person in the earlier parts of their career, unless they're coming into sport now where they get to an elite level. And you have to remember, in sport, there's a fine line between elite level and everybody, the hundreds and thousands underneath that you do not see, will get anything for it and never will. So actually, even if we talk about that whole what athletes get and what they do now, it's still on the real periphery of the best in the world, but the journey to get there has still been the struggle. But I think what you see from sports people, that other people who are just fascinated or fans of sport, is that even at the level you're at, whether it's in club or county or national or international, get the best out of it that you can, because if you've got a talent, you might as well make the most of it. You might never become a full-time athlete, but it's like in the world now, so many runners run just for that. Like, let's face it, running in this country is massive. The 5Ks, the park runs, the 10Ks, the half marathons, the marathons, the triathlons, it's huge. Most of those people dedicate themselves to getting better at that event, who have a full-time job. They're never, ever going to be never going to make a living out of it. But what they're doing for is it's giving them a purpose, it's giving them a goal, it's a dream, and making them feel good. So I think there's that level of elite sport can be looked at here. But to get up here, we have to do what everyone else is doing currently. And that's the balance of just realising that it's about you as an individual taking whatever you've got an opportunity to the max. Because that's how you feel good about yourself.
So what I was going to touch on, obviously, you were talking about with football, in saying that obviously you're doing World Cups, but it's still amateur when you're doing anything else. So there's still that big gap between women in sports and men in sports. I'm not too sure if it's the same with athletics. What steps do you think need to be taken in order for it to be more inclusive for women in football, for women in athletics?
I think we're quite lucky in athletics that you get pretty much the same opportunities at the top level. So now, other than heptathlon, which is different, 7 events versus decathlon at 10 events, and the hurdles for 100 metre 10 hurdles and 100 metre hurdles for women in the different heights. I think every other event, maybe steeplechase is slightly different. Women and men are on comparative, and as well as prize money, women and men are on the same. It's sponsorship, it's all the behind the scenes that women don't get the same amounts of opportunities. So, but in our sport, I think we're very diverse, culturally, race, women, and everything. But I will say, for positive of sport, Paris 2024 has announced that they will have 50% participation across genders. That's the first time ever, and that's across all the sports. So it is on its rise in terms of participation.
Yeah.
Where it's very different in a singular sport like football, as you and Fara will say, men, we know that. I mean, you could talk about that, but there is just no, even the gap that is.
But even between men's football and Olympics, and men's football and rugby, or men's football and tennis. So,
well, we don't get paid as Olympians.
That's what I'm saying. So
Olympians don't get paid. So
people always compare men's football to women's football. You can never do that, but you can't compare men's football to men's rugby. You can't compare it men's football to men's cricket or because they just get paid crazy amounts of money that no one can compete with, let alone female footballers. Yeah. And that game's been going for a long time. But that brings me back to the point of being inclusive or being diverse, because we've lost that within our game. And we've lost that because now there's so much money in the men's game at the top that people that are from underprivileged backgrounds now miss out in terms of opportunities. There's so many things about the game now that is really, in terms of the diversity, we're losing within it because of how expensive it is now to do things, and opportunities are less because of areas now. You think of like inner city London or urban, there's no opportunities there. There's no youth clubs. There's none of these things that I grew up knowing football to be, or like you would relate football with. There's none of that. It's really difficult.
Which is mad now, given the profile of the Lionesses. You know, on one side, you've got families now coming to watch the sport. I mean, the stadiums are full, so it's moved exponentially.
The energy in those stadiums is mad.
And it's
for the
crazy,
women's
but
matches.
The grassroots is still
the
not
grassroots
connected.
It's not connected. It's so and if anything, although the women's game is on the rise, and especially from winning the Euros, if anything, that win has taken the WSL, which is the elite of our game, so far away now from the grassroots of our game that even trying to compete and get women to play, you know, I've seen some of the grassroots women's teams that, you know, when the women won the Euros, they started out with 10 teams. By the time they finished the league, there was only 6 teams within that league. Now we will, and that's women and junior football. So, and we're wanting to encourage the next generation. Talk about being inclusive. I think there's always been a divide between men and women in terms of football.
Always.
They are trying to change that, but men will always still have their opinion on females having an opinion on men. That will always be the case. And it doesn't matter what it is. And that's what I like so much about athletics, because you know what, for me, it was always normal growing up watching athletics, having male and female pundits talk about athletics and normally respect each other for that. Do you know what I mean? And it was so normal to watch and hear. So I just assumed as a female, it would also be the same in football. But then when I really think about it, as a kid growing up, I never saw a female talk about the men's game. So it wasn't normal. It's never been normal. So look, change, it will take time, and it will take a long time for people to accept it. We're still going to be here, and you know, broadcasters or whatever are still going to give females opportunities at a slower rate, but they're going to be there, and it will progress slowly, I'm sure.
It's better than it ever has been, but there's a long way to go, and I think it's always good to look back on where you've come from to realise the progress, rather than to think, well, we're not yet, because there's a lot more people inspired by the movement, inspired to do sport, and seeing real great role models from female football in particular. I think that has changed the landscape for females doing sport across the board, because they're now seeing strong, positive role models rather than just girls in magazines that had to be skinny or whatever it was. The sport narrative is changing to give positivity to teenagers and girls in particular. So for me, they're also the positives of what's happened with the rise of the Lionesses and women's football. But there's always still going to be, you can't, like you say, you can't compare all the time. But if we keep moving, more women take part, more success happens, then, you know, you're keeping the wheels going. And that's the thing that we all have to believe in, that we just keep the wheels going, have more success, never give up, have the, you know, the highs, the lows, but keep being there.
So I've actually, personally, from a personal perspective, I've thoroughly actually enjoyed hearing this. I feel like you've given everyone, hope that's going to watch this, loads of nuggets, loads of little bits of information that everyone.
Nuggets, I hope.
Not chicken. I mean, I'm vegetarian, tofu nuggets.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, Deliveroo and Uber Eats, who knows? You've given loads of like fantastic bits of information, and I think inspirational talks that will hopefully just inspire the next generation of women that are currently wanting to, and men, compete get on to the next level of whatever they're doing. I think it's been fantastic. So thank you so much for coming and talking to Nuffield Health and being fantastic ambassadors for your sports and for us and for everything. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.